But when you look at Tesla and you look at Elon Musk, like more people know who Elon Musk is than they know what Tesla is. More people know Elon Musk than know SpaceX. Look at Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds just can point to something. He comes in and mint and blows the thing up like crazy. He can get equity in any company he wants just by making an ad, possibly. That's the power of branding. So I said, all right, well, let's figure out how to do that.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with a mindset of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire principles. Our ultimate goal, to help you scale and compound your wealth and business so you can give more or all of it away for maximum impact. I'm your host today, Brett Swartz, and in every episode, we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires. They share their principles, values, secrets, and wisdom, providing each of us with the insights we need to reach to the next level of success and impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He is out of the great state of Tennessee, and his passion is to serve, lead, and give. He wants to help other house flippers, wholesalers, entrepreneurs grow their business and achieve personal and financial freedom through real estate investment. He believes that you create financial freedom for you and your family, you'll be able to do much more with your life. And it starts with getting around the right people and making sure you have the right tribe. And he's a former naval officer, or he still might be, with 18 years of military experience, and he enjoys leading others and helping them find their own success and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Bill Allen. Bill, how are we doing?
Good, Brett. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
I retired from the Navy last year after 20 years, flew helicopters and airplanes. When I was a kid, I was like flipping anything that I could get a hold of, from like candy to baseball cards to my time, shoveling driveways, mowing lawns, that kind of stuff. And so I've always been interested in turning $1 into $2. But I started flipping houses when I was active duty in the Navy, scaled up a business to doing hundreds of houses a year while I was still active duty pilot, flying like 10 or 12 hours a day, every day. Had a little baby, and so life was busy, but I wanted to build that business on the side as like a side hustle that turned into the kind of full-time thing. So we had a son who had a heart defect. He needed open heart surgery. And when that came around, I left active duty and went in the reserves and spent 5 years in the reserves before retiring. So probably flipped like 1,000 houses in the past 8 years or so, or wholesale and flip. And then we started doing apartments like 5 years ago. So now we're flipping apartments and houses. So that's kind of my story. Raised a lot of money, probably $50 million over the past 6 or 7 years for real estate deals. And what I'm excited about now is like teaching kids entrepreneurship and finance. I'm doing a 3-day challenge right now for kids. And what I love about the kids is they listen to you. They actually do what you say. Where I think adults have been burned so many times in the past, they're always like struggling with the internal problems that we have to be coachable and to do the things that we think that we can't do. So I'm building a software business too right now, which is exciting, live events. So there's a few things that I'm working on.
That's awesome, Bill. I love it. By the way, you can learn more about Bill right now by going to 7figureflipping.com. That's 7figureflipping.com. Also look up Bill Allen on all the socials as well. So Bill, before we dive into the topic at hand, which is the way you've been able to scale in multiple levels, right? With coaching, with real estate, now with even teaching kids and entrepreneurship and finance and such, and apartment buildings, raising capital. I do want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts, and this gift has been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call them superpowers. I think they're God-given gifts. But I'm just curious, backing up Bill as a younger kid, right? Maybe teenage years. What would you say is that one strength or those two strengths or those gifts that you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
I would say like the art of problem solving. Like I think I'm a really good problem solver. Like I do puzzles and games and those kind of things really well, which every time I see a problem like in a business situation, I feel like I can think and see around the corners a lot of times where other people get stuck just in where their feet are right now. They're not thinking ahead. Like I think I play chess a lot when other people are playing checkers, and it's almost like a cheat code. So that's probably what it is. I can maybe see some just thinking through problems. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because when you start branding yourself and marketing yourself, it's like, what do you have that other people don't have? Like, what's that special gift? I believe it too. It's a God-given gift for sure. And I just think that I usually see the problem before it starts happening and think through all that ahead of time and I also like love to learn. Like I live to learn new things and have like a massive passion there. So anytime there's just something new that I have to do. I get really excited about it.
Amazing. Love all of that. And with that in mind, let's dive right into the topic, which is how have you best scaled your, your business, your mindset, your tribe, right? Helped others to scale. Take us through a little bit of that journey. And even so, how is it changing in this last 12 months?
Well, I think, being a government employee and working for the military for a long time, I was just, punching a clock like a W-2 employee where there was problem solving. I was like kind of running a little business inside of the military, maybe as an aviator. And I'd have to solve problems a lot and lead a crew, and I just didn't have to pay the bills. But I never looked at myself as an entrepreneur. So it was a real struggle, I think, I was so cheap, like to buy a program or invest in myself. I had a formal education, a mechanical engineering undergrad, aeronautical engineering master's degree, and I went to test pilot school. It cost the government $1.6 million to send me to England for a year to go to test pilot school. So like $2 million in education that the government paid for, but I didn't want to invest like, $200 to go to an event. And so that was something I really think slowed me down a lot and was a big barrier to me to grow. So I was doing like one house a year for a few years. I'd buy like one rental property, save up my money, buy the next one the next year. And I thought that was it. Like I'm going to save my way to be a millionaire. And it took years actually for me to finally like just agree to jump into a program. You mentioned your tribe. Like how did you do that? I mean, I paid for my group. I joined a program, paid $25,000, but it was not easy. Like you basically had to pull that money from my cold dead hands. It felt like. But my dad really tested me. I remember him saying, "It sounds like you don't believe in yourself, son." Because I was like, these guys can help me. This program can help me. They're doing 100 houses a year. I'm doing one. And he's like, well, it sounds like you don't believe in yourself. And that's all it took really was for him to say that, for me to fight back and be like, oh, well, I'll show you. Like, I believe in myself. Of course I do. And, but it was just something new to me. Like it was outside of anything else I've ever experienced. I never met anybody who's making more than $150,000 a year. That was the ceiling, 150K a year. That's what I was working towards my whole life. That's what I grew up on. That's what I'd heard from my dad, my family, my whole life. And so that's a little bit of it. I think scaling, I didn't even know what that was until I got into that room. It just wasn't something that I even thought about. I wanted to do 12 houses that first year. I wanted to go from doing one house a year to 12 a year. And I paid my way to get into a mastermind group, a room of people, a coaching program. And I ended up doing 67 houses in like 8 months. And so I just didn't even know that was possible. And then once you get in there, you realize that those people are not any smarter than you. They might have a little bit more experience, but you can do it too if you want to, and you put your time into it. So I think that was like the catalyst of it, was me having to get into a room of people that were doing what I wanted to do, and already some of them in there already had it figured out and were willing to share it.
Yeah, it sounds like the slight shift of not only saying you believe in yourself, but doing the belief in yourself by jumping into these rooms, paying some money for these coaches, and then it starts to come alive as you're doing the thing, right? The feelings start to follow, and then the results start to follow, and then you're looking in the rooms going, okay, if they can do this, I can do this, and you did it, and you did 60 plus houses in that first year. That's incredible. So now let's shift into, it's first. Was that a fair summary? Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously it took 4.5 months to get my first wholesale deal. So it wasn't, I just want to make sure that people don't think that just you pay money, you get in a room like that and it happens overnight. I mean, there's a lot of things that I was doing that just takes time. Like you actually, and I was building a business for 20 years, not for 1 year. I see a lot of people now, they're trying to build something in 1 year. And if they don't hit their metric, it's like, I'm not good enough, can't do it. I was willing to take that entire year to do two houses. But it's not easy. So I want to make sure that's clear, because I was doing the work. I was working 10 or 12 hours a day every day, and I was working from 4:30 in the morning till 7:30 in the morning, and then from 7 p.m. to 10:30 again every night for a whole year during that time, because I had a full-time job. And so I get a lot of people that say, I don't have time to do this. I don't think you have time. I just don't think you're willing to do it. Like, you actually don't want it. If you really wanted it, it's like plan B. That was like plan A for me. It's like, I'm going to figure this out. And I was so dedicated to it that I just kept going. So.
Love
It's
it. Talk
probably it.
about maybe you mean cold calls and sales and communication and how you scaled your communication, your social media, your content, right? Shift into that, right? Because the real estate one, I think for a lot of our listeners, I think they can get that, right? That's that they can get that. But we'll talk about scaling to the next level from maybe going from millions now to perhaps multiple millions, perhaps even tens of millions as you're scaling in the power of content creation, social media, coaching, all of that part of it.
Yeah. So for years it was just a podcast and Facebook. Like that was it. And just so work on the same page and everybody listening, the seven-figure flipping company that I own right now is the same program that I bought for $25,000. So for like 3 years, I was a member for a year. Then I became a coach because I did really well, and then I became the COO of the company, and then I eventually bought the company from my mentor. So I've been running the company for a little over 5 years now, and he was running seven-figure flipping for like 3 years, 3.5 years. So I inherited a podcast. I inherited an email list that I had to kind of shift the. I just changed the structure of it a little bit. I changed the branding. I changed it to be my thing, my aviation world, our runway program, our altitude program, Top Gun, all the different things that we have that's very aviation-like. And I kind of just changed the culture a little bit of it to what I wanted it to be. So I inherited that. I didn't even want to do the podcast. Like I tried to give it away to a friend that had one. Because I'm not a front of the house guy. I'm very much like a big, I look at a good number two guy. Like I love to be behind the scenes. I like to tinker. I like to adjust things. So I really had to overcome a lot of things at that time. I had to learn to sell from stage. I had to learn to communicate. I had to be in front of the camera, not, behind it. I had to do all that stuff. And it's still a challenge for me. It's still not something that it drains my batteries. Let's just put it that way. I feel like I've gotten decent at it, but it definitely drains my batteries faster than most people. Like, fame in front of the house doesn't really like ramp me up. It just drains my batteries. So, and it's work. And so that was a piece of it. Like, so on Facebook and the podcast was like, that was my only platform for like 4 years, probably the last 4 years. And then a year ago, I realized I was like, I have got to get like, we're just not growing at the speed at which we need to grow. And it's because nobody knows who we are. And so I actually heard Grant Cardone on Undercover Billionaire too. He said, best known beats best. And I wrote it down. It was like 3 years ago, probably maybe 4 when I saw this. And I was like, man, I've been in the back of my laboratory building the best program that I think is out there, but nobody knows who we are. And so I see these other people that are they have so much attention that they just point at stuff and it sells out. And I said, well, and by sell out, I mean like they sell all the tickets to their event. They sell all their programs. They make a lot of money. And I was like, this is it. It's the new currency is attention. The new currency is eyeballs. And I have got to jump on this train. As hesitant as I am to do it, I have to do it. And so a little over a year ago, I went on this mission I set up an Instagram account. I think I had like 100 followers on Instagram, and it was just pictures of my kids, and I was playing around with it. I didn't even know how to use it because I didn't grow up on it. I mean, I've turned 44 this year. It's just Instagram wasn't a thing. YouTube, I never jumped on that bandwagon, never watched it. I just was not on YouTube ever. TikTok, I still don't know how to use. But like that stuff is something that I had to get on the train. And so we set on a mission a little over a year ago to start building YouTube. And this is my personal one. Like we had that stuff for seven-figure flipping. But what I realized is like your personal branding is way more important than your company. And what we did for years, which I think was a huge mistake, is I was the company and the company was me. So like everything was seven-figure flipping. But when you look at Tesla and you look at Elon Musk, like more people know who Elon Musk is than they know what Tesla is. More people know Elon Musk than know SpaceX. More people know like and he can just point to stuff. Like look at Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds just can point to something. He comes in and mint and blows the thing up like crazy. He can get equity in any company he wants just by making an ad, possibly. That's the power of branding. So I said, all right, well, let's figure out how to do that. And so that's been a challenge, but it's been consistent work, finding the right team, finding the right concepts, testing things, hypothesize, test, and pivot. Those 3 things are the 3 things that we do in everything. And so what do we think is going to happen? Let's test it and let's make adjustments. And so over the last year, it took me almost a year to get to over 100 subscribers on YouTube, and we're almost at 10,000 now. Instagram, I started with 100 a year ago, or I don't know, we're at like 24 or 25,000 or somewhere close to that now. And so instead of gaining 10 people a week, we're gaining 10 people an hour now. And just being able to, and I'm not promoting on there. I'm just adding value right now. Like we're not even making sales. We're not pushing for that. It's just about building an audience so that we can start pointing to stuff.
Awesome.
So,
Bill
well,
Allen, everybody, by the way, sevenfigureflipping.com, sevenfigureflipping.com, the number seven, but even better than that, look up Bill Allen on Instagram or on YouTube, right? And check out his stuff. Did you finish that thought there, Bill? Or did you want to add something else to that?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's really important. It's also really challenging. Like you really have to go, and it's this exact same thing I talked about in the real estate business. Like you just have to make a commitment and stick to it because it would have been so easy for me to quit after 8 months or 9 months, just like this doesn't work. Like we're not getting the traction. And everything is right on the other side of that. Like right when you feel that, you're like, just keep going a couple more steps. And that's when it starts to hockey stick a little bit. And I mean, I'm sure I'll look back and be like 20 some thousand, that's a joke. Like we're at 100 or 200 or a million. And I don't think it'll be long before we get there now because we've learned so much over the last year. Now we can start implementing a lot of the things that we learned.
Excellent. Okay, so it sounds like wow. Making the decision, right? Making the commitment, and then B, kind of giving over yourself of like, I don't necessarily like to be on camera or want to be on the front, but we're gonna grow. I've got to lead, right? And I've got to do things that are uncomfortable, and I got to push through. And then being able to take the concept of best known beats best, right? And so you could have the most amazing, great product, coaching, all of it. But if you're not really known, then you're not going to make as big of an impact, and you're not going to grow. And so, changing that mindset, making the commitment. Okay, so that's how you scaled that. Is that a fair summary on that one?
Yeah, I think the one thing that we're leaving out is like really finding the right people, which I'm sure we have to get to when we talk about kind of growing anything. Because if it's just me doing it, then there's no possible way we're anywhere near in anything that I've ever done myself. Like it's just not possible. And I had to find the right people. And then the right people had to turn into new people. And as you grow, you kind of outgrow some of the people. And that's the hard part, especially when you start with them. But really, I think people are a lot of my system of growing anything that I've ever done is finding the right people, putting them in place and inspiring them. You mentioned leadership. I think it's the most important thing on the planet. And learning how to be a good leader it's totally a skill that can be learned.
Yeah, before the show, we were
And
talking about some of the highs, some of the lows, and leadership in particular. Right? Talk about what's been the most rewarding leadership, you know, uh, trait or skill that you've learned the last 5 years that's paid the biggest dividends? And on the other side, what's been the one that you really had to overcome, right? That maybe wasn't as natural to you for your personality type or for your background and military. Like, walk us through like the high and the low for the leadership.
yeah, I'd say the biggest leadership like win for me has been a couple of the people that have grown up inside of my real estate company, Blackjack Real Estate, that have sadly left me, like stopped working for me. They quit or they left, but they've built really big businesses. And so like they got to a point where they were so inspired by what we were doing, um, what I was teaching them, what they were learning, their mindset, that they wanted to go build a multi-million-dollar company, and they did. And so it's really cool. And the fact that we're still connected is probably my favorite thing about it all. Like we're still friends. We still work together. One of them joined my coaching program, or two of them have joined my coaching program. It's another one's a partner of mine in the apartment business. It's incredible. That's what I think leaders that build leaders and they're still connected to them. I didn't kind of like write them off and sign them off and say, oh, you want to leave and quit? Like, good luck. You'll never make it. I see a lot of people do that. It's a huge mistake. Like, that's what it should look like. You're raising these people up to do more than they think they're capable of in the beginning. And that's the biggest win that I have, period. And I'd say that some of the biggest challenges are on the other side of that. It's the same thing. Either like really good people eventually leaving because like our umbrella just isn't wide enough to keep them, which is a challenge, but also a good thing on the other side of the coin. And then also, bringing in the wrong people and just getting these setbacks. Like but you can't do everything. Like you got You got to bring them the right people. You got to raise them up. You got to help empower them. But sometimes those people are just not capable of doing it, or they're not the right people. And I'd say letting those people go is some of the hardest things that I've done. But I've told every single person that I've ever had to let go, I said, look, this is just not the right job for you. Like, it's not the right fit. You're going to call me a year from now or 2 years from now and thank me for what I'm doing right now. It doesn't feel like it right now. You're angry with me. I get it. But you're going to call me one day, or you're going to sit in your house one day and you're going to remember this and you're going to go, man, I'm so glad that he cut me loose, because now I found the thing that I'm really good at, that I'm really passionate about, that I love. And I've gotten a lot of those phone calls too. So that's the hardest challenge, is finding the right people and really empowering those people to keep going, and giving them some autonomy to make mistakes and do those things. That's been the hardest challenge, is just continuously like recruiting and finding really great people. I feel like I'm always doing that.
Yeah.
And the problem is the leader grows so fast that it's hard to keep up with them. Like, I feel like my growth is insane. Like, if I look back every year, it's just huge growth, and it's really hard for those people to keep up with us.
So moving on to the next question here, Bill. Thinking about today, right? Today being AI, today being changing times, today being, lots of headwinds in multifamily syndicators in particular, with, interest rates not being capped, and people having to raise capital, just some challenges, right? So what's the best way that you're finding to lead through this? And two, what are some things to solve some problems that you're helping your students with, right? Or even you're working through yourself to come on the other side as strong as you can?
I think the best way that I see it is, I think we need to share what's really going on. I find a lot of people, it's so much BS online right now. Like, you mentioned content creation and all this stuff. There's so much garbage. It's like highlight reel of every single day. And those people are going through really difficult stuff. I mean, I got people inside my community that their businesses are getting crushed. And everybody knows that that's happening right now, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody's sharing like how difficult it was inside their business. So I think just being really open and being willing to talk about the ups and the downs is really important. Like, everybody says vulnerability and all that stuff but it's really just about, I think, leading from the front with that. Like, if I can show the things that are not working for me, that are going wrong, that we're struggling with, and how we're considering reconciling it, what I'm doing, all of that stuff. I made a post on Facebook at the end of the year last year of like, hey, this is one of the toughest years I've had. Like, 2023 was a really challenging year financially for our coaching industry. Like, there's a lot of coaches that have come in the marketplace. The market is absolutely saturated with masterminds and coaching programs, and it's all that stuff. And it really did hit us. Our event did not produce the numbers and results that it should have, frankly, because I think the economy was tight. People didn't have as much money. It's one of the hardest markets I've ever raised money into ever in the last 8 years. And I think it's because people aren't making as much money as they have been making before, and they're just not talking about it. The people that would usually invest 200, 300, 500K in my deals are like, I don't have any money right now. I have people that do short-term loans. I do short-term loans. These usually give me 2-3 million, don't even have $1 million right now to give me. And it's not because they don't want to, it's the fact that they don't have it. Like, hey, I had to pump a bunch of money into my business, they tell me. They're not producing like they used to. And so it's just not being talked about. I think it's kind of like we're propped up on a feather. And I've been thinking about this for years. It's been obvious. The stock market's been doing that. It's very touchy. And so I think the best thing that we can do as leaders is to actually share the real stuff. Like, to share what's really going on, not to paint everything like it's perfect, we don't need more like Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and that kind of stuff just nonstop. It's like, this is really what's going down and what's tight and tough. And I think that's the most helpful things that we can do as leaders, is actually share that stuff. So people see an example from that when they look up, because nobody else wants to talk about it. Nobody wants somebody to look down and see that they're struggling. Like, if you look up and you see that people are struggling, you have somebody who is in there fighting with you and can give you some advice. So I think that's the best thing that I'm trying to do is encourage people to talk about that, what's going wrong with them. Don't only be loud when everything's going good. Be loud when things are not going good too, and talk about it and share it. And yeah, it sucks, but somebody's going to reach out and help you. And the best thing we do in our coaching program, same thing, is We've been through this before. We can see it, and people can see these problems before they happen a lot of times. And if you find yourself in it, somebody else has been there before. They can show you how to get out faster.
Absolutely. I think it sounds like it starts with being vulnerable at the top of it for a leader, so that the others that are the mentees or those that are being coached can feel safe enough to do that as well, right? And then from there you can actually lay it out on the what's going on and go, oh, well, that's not so bad, right? Let's solve that together. Let's see how we can come together. I mean, it's the essence of a mastermind in a community, um, which makes sense. Which leads into the next topic, which is problem solving, right? So part of what we do here, Bill, is it's capital gains tax solutions, right? And so it's our passion, it's our focus, it's our niche, and we focus like a laser on giving people leverage and time when it comes to exiting highly appreciated assets, especially real estate assets, right? That have large capital gains taxes, and you're not having to be forced into a 1031 exchange. Part of what we're seeing right now is lack of liquidity, diversification, and too much debt. And these are the three things that are sinking the ship that's trying to cross the Atlantic Ocean to the other side, but all the holes are just pouring in. And this is why they have to, have the pref equity bailout, or they have to have, refinance, and they're just trying to get all this stuff, capital calls, just to keep the ship from sinking. We found that you got to connect three aspects: cash flow, tax flow, and debt flow. And most of the people out there are just talking about cash flow. Some are talking about some tax flow, but are they bringing all three together with the debt flow? And so we focus on something called a deferred sales trust, which gives investors and gives owners of assets the ability to sell high and buy low and diversify without any debt. And I'll give you an example. We helped a client. They had a $13 million asset in San Diego that they had built for about $4 million, a couple million of debt, and this is right before 2022. They sold high and they were looking around, and we grew up thinking the 1031 exchange was the end all be all, right? And you can just continue to swap until you drop, get a stepped up basis, and then boom, you're in great shape, right? 2008 crash hit, and we learned quickly that that's not right for a lot of reasons. But back to this one just a couple years ago here, they're looking around. They go, well, we're developers. We don't like to buy a $13 million asset. We want to buy land for 500, improve it for 3.5 million, and sell it for 13. That's the model. And so they sold, deferred the tax, paid off the debt, and they actually invested and they diversified into T-bills, a little bit into hard money lending. And they waited for the market to shift while they were on the sidelines, tax deferred. And now we're buying assets at a discount. And we call it the Netflix versus the Blockbuster way of exit planning. And we think it's the best kept secret. But I'm curious, have you ever heard of a deferred sales trust before, Bill? And what comes to mind if you could buy high and sell low? And by the way, this works for crypto, businesses, any asset that 1031s don't even qualify for. So any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, I have heard of it before. Absolutely. We've looked at it a few times. I think the change in that 100% bonus depreciation, because we buy distressed assets, fix them up, and then sell them. I'm not a developer. We don't have those kind of margins that I normally see. And so I've been doing this poor man's 1031 for the last 8 years. But as of the last 2 years, now we're at 80%, now going to 60% and down to 40 if nothing changes. So now we are looking at more new strategies of how we can defer a lot of those taxes, because I haven't paid taxes in like 6 years because of that exact strategy. So I'd use 100% bonus depreciation. I sell something, let's say I got $1 million that I put in, I get $2 million back. I put $2 million back into the next asset. I'm never taking anything off the table. That gives me like a $950,000 write-off, which offsets the million, and I just keep going. Well, now it doesn't really work as well, because if I go down to 60% or 40% or 20%, or it goes away down the road, we're having to look at something different. So I've used this, capital gains, or this, I'd use a deferred tax strategy on a poor man's 1031, as I would call it, or 100% bonus depreciation, and buying airplane and all this other stuff that I've done. I have not gone deep enough into this, but it is an incredible tool, because we can't even 1031. As a syndicator, I can't take 1031 money, really. Everybody asks for it. We have to be tenants in common. It has to be written in there ahead of time. It's a hassle, especially when I have 80 other people that are involved, and then we sell and everybody wants to go their separate ways. It just doesn't work. And so definitely a strategy that can work in many different ways, versus I've never done a 1031 and I don't ever want to.
Yeah, I could agree with you more. And by the way, if you want to learn more, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And so a couple things on that, right? So, and I imagine you're seeing great deals, you're underwriting great deals, and you're not taking on too much debt, right? And a lot of what you're doing it sounds like fix and flips. But correct me if I'm wrong, if you have some longer term holds, sounds like you have those as well. So the idea of a new depreciation schedule, right? And that's part of why you buy and you the bonus depreciation, right? And you cost seg and you get that. And so that and by the way, we were like, hey, do you have any carry forward loss? Do you have any assets you haven't done any cost seg bonus depreciation on? And we're going through the checklist before you go to this. And so if you have those, then go ahead and use that because you're absolutely right. It's less expensive. It's simple. You already have the assets. But where this, I think, is super powerful for someone like yourself would be not necessarily just right now for your assets. It could be in the future when you have an estate tax challenge, right? Because essentially 2026, you're going to look at uh, 12 to 14 million married, or if you're single, 6 to 7. And then the death tax is coming for everybody, baby. Like it doesn't stop unless you've got to buy a bunch of life insurance, a bunch of gifting, or a bunch of charity, which is fine. But in our strategy, you can eliminate that estate tax with any charity, no charity, no life insurance, no gifting required. But the second part is you can partner with this trust and get a new depreciation schedule. So there's assets or there's investors or there's clients who you're working with who are selling assets such as cryptocurrency. We help the client. We're the first to do it. She bought Bitcoin for 50,000 and went to 50 million at 54,000 a coin. And so we helped her exit the 5 million, defer 1.85 million of tax. She's in California. Defer that, and then she used it as startup capital. No 1031 required, no tick required, just straight into a deal of her own with a partner. It can also go into passive Reg D funds, active, but just comes in as like just a regular investor would, no seamlessly, right? We did it for an Ethereum client as well, and this is our premise, right? Where Bitcoin and Ethereum, let's say all-time highs or close to it. If you can sell high, defer your tax, and kind of like 1031 into a multifamily syndication, it becomes one of the number one ways. We don't even say it's raising capital, it's literally unlocking capital. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people are raising capital and they're not doing a very good job of it, right? And in fact, we think equity right now is like oxygen and there's people that are just starving for breath, right? And so we're looking at how do you solve the problem of capital and equity in other places, tax deferred into other ones, and as seamless a way as you can do it. And that's why we actually wrote a book on it called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. And this is all we do now is just walk people through these exit strategies. We believe it's the reverse Tea Party going on right now, Bill. Whereas 240 years ago, the marketplace, or America before it was America, fought for rights because of tax, right? And now we've built more wealth in the history of the planet with $84 trillion set to transfer in the next 18 years, 77 million baby boomers in the US alone, 10,000 turning 65 every single day. And literally the control of that wealth is in the hands of the people, going into real estate assets, going into businesses, or is it going to be the hands of the government who, no matter what side you're on, are going to probably not spend it very wisely? And so that's kind of our mission, our thoughts. And I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
I love it. I think I need to give that book to every single person that comes and talks to me. I mean, I'm the money guy in my world of real estate. So raising capital for apartment deals. We have single family houses in Kentucky that we hold and sell on owner financing. So that's like my real estate annuity at 8 or 9% interest fixed every single month that people get ACH'd over long term. For the older people, we have the value add apartments, but it sounds like that book is exactly what a lot of these people need because exactly right. I get people that come to me every single day, like, what should I do? Like, hey, I need some help on the finances. I see what you're doing. I see how you're investing your money. Like, what can I do? And they're not real estate professionals, which is usually like one of the only tools that we have of figuring out how you can use bonus depreciation to offset your active income. And so it sounds like you have a lot of really great strategies. I think I would be interested in reading that book myself.
Thank you,
And
Bill.
I
And by
need
the way,
to.
it also works for your airplane, okay? So even if you've done bonus depreciation, just don't have too much debt over basis. If you have debt over basis, we can't help that. That's a challenge. But sometimes we're doing a
Mhm.
partial Delaware statutory trust to solve that, and a partial 1031, and then a partial deferred sales trust. People want to learn more, go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com. Okay, that's the geek out problem solving tax stuff with me and Bill. And that being said, Bill, we're running out of time. You ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self and you could sit down with the person you most admire, what's the number one thing they would tell you to save you hundreds of hours and put thousands of more dollars in your pocket?
Oh, wow. What would they tell me? Um, they'd probably tell me to just invest as much money as I can when I'm young, and it will massively multiply. I would do the same thing if somebody came to me. Make more money make as much money as you can, spend as little as you can, and invest as much as you can as early as you can.
Beautiful. Question number two, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Extreme ownership.
Question number three, what are you most curious about?
Cryptocurrency. I don't have any of it. I don't know much about it. I'm very curious about it and excited about it, but I'm just not an early, and it's probably not even that early right now. I'm just still on the sidelines. So,
Question number 4, number one way you're using ChatGPT.
um, I- I use it a lot to just give me ideas. Specifically right now, like content creation, just give me some different ideas and iterations of things, headlines, titles, hooks, that kind of stuff.
Great. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by.
Do a good turn daily.
Excellent. Last question. After all your success, helping all the people you've helped, what's the number one way that you're really striving to practice stewardship over ownership? And what's something that you passionately believe in to make a big impact in this world?
I believe in our youth. Like I think we're spending a lot of time on that right now. It's not financially lucrative for us, and it's taking a lot of my time, energy, and effort and brain power. But oh man, it's I don't think there's anything more like in a way of being a good steward of this planet and the future and society. There's no better way that we can do than pour into these kids. So.
Bill Allen, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for your passion for the youth, passion for helping people create and preserve wealth with investing. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts you've been given with the art of problem solving, thinking and seeing things around the corner, playing chess and not checkers, right? And really just making a difference in people's lives, right? In every single way that you're doing. I love that you're living all out, full out, and you're blessing people. And you've got major gifts, and so keep using them and keeping your foot on the pedal. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, Instagram and YouTube, it's at Bill Allen REI, like real estate investor, and then 7figureflipping.com, the number 7figureflipping.com.
Amazing. Thanks, Bill, for being on the show. I also want to thank all of our listeners or viewers for listening and watching the Build It to Billions podcast and this ever-evolving landscape of entrepreneurship and the journey from $1 million to $1 billion. It's not just a leap of faith, but a transformation that demands relentless innovation, strategic foresight, and unwavering commitment to growth. I hope you got just a piece of that from Bill today. His commitment and his strategy and his problem solving skills. I hope you can be inspired today and also sharpen the blade to go out and make a big difference, make a big impact. Please rate, review, subscribe to this channel, as well as share it with somebody, and then check out the book. Do not get caught with a bad 1031. Friends don't let friends overpay in a 1031, and friends don't let friends not have a capital gains tax exit plan. Go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com. Check out the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. We'll talk to everyone again real soon. Thanks so much. Bye.